think, twice as long to work, from home
Online, yes.
online,
It's
because
tiresome, but
everything has to be written or spoken, and you can't
I,
just
I,
walk into someone's office and tap them on the back and
yeah.
say,
Good
"Let me."
morning. Good morning,
Atul, should we
everybody.
begin? Yeah.
We are live now, and a warm welcome to all the distinguished speakers at the webinar on future of handloom and khadi. And the theme of our program today is revitalizing handloom and khadi for inclusive development. And inclusive development is the key because most of our artisans are based in rural areas or from the tribal belts, and among them also majority of them are women. So we have a significance of sustainability and inclusivity in this program. We have an eminent panel of speakers from and we have Mr. Kishore Shah joining so early in the morning from London. It's 7 o'clock there. So with these words, I would start the program and request Mr. Randhir Vikram Singh, who is co-chairman of FICCI Rajasthan State Council and CMD of Mandawa Hotels. In fact, Randhir ji is the architect of heritage movement in Rajasthan and have built heritage tourism in the Shekhawati area, and is also the General Secretary of Indian Heritage Hotel Association. And this theme of handloom and khadi gels with the tourism very well because as we were there in the Future of Tourism webinar a couple of days back, it was the tangible and intangible heritage that will help Rajasthan resurrect its tourism sector. So over to you, sir, for the welcome remarks.
Thank you, Atul. Good morning to everybody. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you all. Dr. Arvind Mayaram, Economic Advisor to the Honorable Chief Minister of Rajasthan. Mr. Dhiraj Srivastava, Commissioner, Rajasthan Foundation. Mr. Dilip Chenoy, Secretary General, FICCI. Padma Shri Ms. Laila Tyabji, Chairperson, Dastkar. Mr. Kishore Shah, Co-founder and Director, Khadi, London. Ms. Alka, Madhan, Campus Director, Pearl Academy, Jaipur. Dr. Toolika Gupta, Director, Indian Institute of Craft and Design, Jaipur. Ms. Wandana, Parnami, Chairperson, FICCI Ladies Organization, Jaipur Chapter. Participating delegates and viewers on the YouTube. I'm delighted to welcome you all at today's webinar on future of handloom and khadi on the eve of Gandhi Jayanti. The craftsmanship evolved over the years is reminiscent of the rich cultural tradition and heritage of our country. The handloom sector plays a crucial role in generating employment and revenue. It is one of the few sectors that preserves and promotes Indian culture, promotion of traditional skills and capabilities by encouraging capacity and skill building coupled with design, quality and marketing initiatives will not only ensure sustainability of the sector, but will also help revive the waning skills of the artisans and fostering exports. Rajasthan has a rich variety of handloom products in different regions like Kota Doria, tie and dye, block printing, zari, bandage, cotton razais and khesh, namda, sagani, bagru and barbary prints, etc. We have various success stories also wherein people have helped communities in getting access to skilling, finance and marketing. But this needs to scale up these initiatives. There's also a strong interlink between the tourism and local crafts, both tangible and intangible. Heritage will play a significant role in reviving and reclaiming the past glory of tourism in the post-COVID world. It is vital for all stakeholders to undertake measures that would influence the fresh energy into the sector. Else these traditions could become extinct. We need to encourage members of the weaving community, both financially and technologically, to make this tradition sector to high level, take it to a high level and spread its charm around the world. I'm sure that the deliberations during the webinar would provide a meaningful insight and framework for the future deliverables. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. And rightly said that it's closely interwoven with the tourism sector of Rajasthan. Now we will have with us the Secretary General of FICCI, Mr. Dilip Chenoy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Atul. Very good morning to everybody. Dr. Arvind Mayaram, Economic Advisor to the Honorable Chief Minister of Rajasthan and the Vice Chairman of the Rajasthan Economic Transformation Advisory Council. Mr. Dhiraj Srivastava, Commissioner, Rajasthan Foundation. Mr. Randhir, Vikram Singh, Co-Chairman, FICCI, Rajasthan State Council and the CMD of Mandawa Hotels. Mr. Kishore Shah, Co-Founder and Director, Khadi London. Ms. Laila, Tyabji, Chairperson, Dastkar, Dr. Toolika, Gupta, IICD, Jaipur, Ms. Alka, Madhan from Pearl, Ms. Wandana Parnami, who is the Chairperson of the Jaipur FICCI Ladies Organization, and Atul Sharma, the Head of State Council in Rajasthan. Let me add my own welcome to all of you. It's a delight to meet up with many old friends and mentors and guides in this very important session on Khadi and handloom. I'm actually, wearing a Khadi handloom jacket, and I got a handloom. I'm sitting on a chair that has handloom jute at the back. Handloom has a long tradition of excellent craftsmanship, representing and preserving the vibrant Indian culture. These are appreciated and acclaimed globally for the weaving, printing, and elegance. Each state in India has something to offer. The co-chair actually talked about the great traditions in Rajasthan, but across India, there were a huge set of things that are available. I would also like to say that earlier in August, from the 7th of August to this, for 2 weeks, there was a Vocal for Local initiative where we tried to advocate all of us to actually try and buy one handloom or handicraft product here so that we can support the tremendous, talent that is available in different states by actually providing consumption for the products that they manufacture and that they sell. This sector, I believe, holds a lot of promise for the future. There is a heightened awareness about the use of this sector. We can actually lead the world in these two areas. And later on during the year, FICCI is organizing a major Khadi and handloom event with the small and medium industry, and there is the KVIC later. Earlier, just last week, we organized the 7th edition of Vastra with RICO on the virtual platform. We had over close to 1,000 buyers who would actually come to buy products online. And this was exclusively for handloom products, and we will take this further. I believe that with the presence and participation of such a wide range of people with immense knowledge about this sector, and many people who have devoted a lifetime to this sector, the deliberations today will be extremely exciting, and we will be able to actually come and say how we can promote this Khadi and handloom things in the future, especially revitalize this sector and look at inclusive development going forward. So thank you very much and congratulations to the Rajasthan State Committee for organizing this.
Thank you, sir. In fact, besides the jacket and the sofa cover, we have seen the wide range of dresses that you have wore during the handloom week and posted it on social media. So it is reminiscent of the personal passion also towards this thing.
Yeah, I actually pick up every visit that I do to Jaipur, and you've actually noticed this. I pick up something local every time. Wherever I travel, I always try and go to an artisan's place or some other place and actually buy something local, and that's my small way of promoting it.
Thank you, sir. And now we have with us Ms. Alka Madhan, who is Campus Director of Pearl Academy, Jaipur. Ms. Madhan brings with her about 20 years plus of career experience spanning top corporations and education institutions. And she is passionate about women empowerment and well-being and works towards this in every sphere of life. So over to you, Ms. Madhan.
You'll have to unmute yourself.
Alka ji, you are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can hear you, we can see you. Please go ahead.
Just hold on. Let me. I'm just doing a little bit of. Yeah. So, good morning and thank you, first of all, for inviting me for such a brilliant conference. It comes at the right time also on the occasion of Mahatma Gandhi Jayanti. Now, whenever we say this word khadi or handloom, there is a lot of emotion which is attached. And why it is so? That because it is not just the hand-spun fabric which we are talking about. We are talking about a man behind it, a man who revolutionized the entire movement called Swadeshi. And let me tell you, when he started, he must have started with a thought that what is it that I do which involves everybody, which makes sense to everybody, which is easy to process, which is easy to expand, and it is relevant for all the times. And that is a vision. Khadi, handloom, it's a vision. And yes, we got this khadi as a fabric of tomorrow, which is relevant today also. And when he started, he made sure that every part of the supply chain is a part of that movement. He reached out to the cloth merchant, to the suppliers. He very importantly reached out to schools. Charkha was taken to the schools during 1917. It started as a small thing. Imagine in our village of Gujarat, and it became a national movement. And when Charkha was taken to the school, there was an effort that it should start producing finer yarn day by day. Why I'm talking about this is got a context to it. There are lessons in the history. When we relook at Khadi today, we should look at it as an entire thing. Like Dilip rightly said, there is so much to offer from every state. And khadi is just not the, handloom is not just the word, it is not just the hand spun woven, it is a belief. We need to believe ourselves. And when we are talking about this, that it should reach out to every part of the nation, it should touch each one of us. That is when the khadi, the swaraj, the Swadeshi will become a reality. I'm very much in favor of taking khadi to schools, taking khadi to colleges. We have got a fabric which is like sustainable. It is brilliant. You can make it, modulate it into so many forms. You just have to, do a little bit about with the waf, with the web, and you see a lot of things coming out of it. There are artisans which have this expertise with us. We have to save this legacy. When I talk about the school, it should be a part of the curriculum. Students should actually work with the artisan to understand, to appreciate, to preserve this legacy. I'm very happy to share with you that Pearl Academy, the students are encouraged. They go to Bagru, they go to Sanganer, they go to other places of the state to understand how these artisans weave, how these artisans work. And I'm not just talking about Pearl. It should be there in all the schools, in all the, it is high time we appreciate what has been given to us like the legacy. It's the fabric of tomorrow. It's the fabric of the future. Look at the sustainability. Sustainability is no longer a corridor conversation. sustainability is the mainstream conversation today. And all across the world, Khadi has been accepted as a fabric with zero carbon print. Handlooms, which we do, the other fabrics which make zero carbon prints. Look at Khadi. It just requires 3 liters of water to make to do 1 meter of Khadi, against the mills which uses 55 liters. We have the sustainable fabric with us. Now it's high time we take it to the next level. We appreciate it. And I am also here, this is my submission to everybody here. We have the best of the labs, we have the best of the faculty, we have the best of the students who are ready to cooperate. Let us sit down and work out on these ideas. When we start from the childhood, when we do how we can make certain programs so that Khadi is propagated properly across the country. How can we work along with the artisans? The entire movement was to keep the dignity of labor. Are we taking care of that? Are we taking care of the dignity? Are we taking care of their upskilling? They have skills, but are we investing in technologies to upskill them? Are we taking care of them? Make them contemporary. These are some of the ways where we can talk about artisans, talk about the legacy, talk about the fabric itself. And it makes, COVID times, Corona came all of a sudden, but it made us sit back and relook at things. We must have noticed this that in everyday life we are relooking. हम रोज सोचते हैं कि हम ये चीज कहाँ पे गलत कर रहे थे. Time for reflection for all this. And I believe when there is suddenly we are talking about ये Chinese app को हम ban करें, हम स्वदेशी करें. We look at it, the manufacturing of India is going down. There's a lot of which MSMEs are doing. There is a lot which KICs, there are a number of stores which has gone up. But we have to look at it into a complete picture as it. That and till Khadi, till handlooms become a part of everyday's life, each and everyone's life, it is not going to make any difference. When we say Swadeshi, Swadeshi does not mean made in India. Swadeshi means that when we keep the nation's interest before our individual's interest. By banning foreign brands, by banning foreign apps, is not the solution. Do we have alternatives? We need to first work out on our alternatives, see that we are all prepared to be on our feet, and actually then we should look at it, how we can propagate this and actually start living Swadeshi, start living Swaraja in actual sense. So my submission is live consciously, buy every time anything which is local like Dilip and you. And I believe more than that, on serious note, we should look at certain loopholes which are there in the system. It's just not by doing talks or something. We should seriously sit back, look back, and work out on the solutions. I am open to it. My faculty is there. My students are there. Moreover, I offer my premises, my labs, which are world-class labs, to see that if I can be a part of this whole solution. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that speech and volunteering to partner in this initiative. We will also look at how we can engage the local artisans and weavers and how they can take advantage of any
Absolutely.
design intervention from your side.
Let's have a conversation.
Sure. Our next speaker is Dr. Toolika Gupta, who is Director of Indian Institute of Crafts and Design, Jaipur. And she is a researcher and educator in the field of clothing, textile, crafts and design, PhD in History of Arts, Dress and Textiles from University of Glasgow, UK, MSc in Textiles and Clothing from Lady Irwin College, New Delhi, and has been associated as a PhD fellow with Center of Textile Research, Copenhagen, Denmark. So with this experience, we look forward to your ideas. Over to Dr. Toolika Gupta.
A very good morning to you. Thank you, Mr. Atul Sharma, for the introduction. And I'm really grateful to FICCI for inviting me on this platform where we have such stalwarts in the field of, in different fields. I mean, I must say tourism and promotion of Indian textiles, I hold them in very high esteem. I have prepared a little presentation for today. Being in academics, I can't stop myself from giving presentations. So it's a very short 7-slide presentation. And all the photographs, I would like to tell in advance, all the photographs in the presentation are from our exhibition on Khadi last year. Last year, on the 2nd of October, we had, IICD had done a presentation on the philosophy of Khadi in the Jawahar Kala Kendra with the help of the government of Rajasthan Art and Culture Department. And I'm really grateful because they trusted us, and they made us really think about what is Khadi and why do we need to take it forward. So I've put some pictures from there, and I'm just going to share my views. I have 10 minutes. I'll try to make the most of that. So just bear with me. I'm just trying to share the screen, and then I will continue. So yeah, can you please see the screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, thank you so much. So once again, I thank you for inviting me. And so this was a webinar on the future of handloom and Khadi. And so I deemed fit that we put a picture of Mahatma Gandhi, which was woven by one of our ex-students. And I think he did a beautiful job of it. So with due respect, I ask a question which we ask many times. What is Khadi? Khadi, of course, when we define it as a fabric, it is a hand-woven fabric made with hand-spun yarns. So we all know that it is different from the merely hand-woven fabric because it is hand-spun and hand-woven. And the word Khadi itself comes from khadi, which is the loom. So it is a hand-woven, hand-spun fabric. Yes, it is. These days, most fabrics are made by mill-spun yarns. And then they're either made on hand loom, power loom, or mills. And most of the hand-woven fabrics are made with mill-made yarn. So they are hand-woven, but not Khadi. So should we promote only Khadi? Should we promote hand-woven? Should we promote all kinds of fabric that is made in India? What should we do? And we discuss Khadi year after year on Gandhi Jayanti. Why is it so? Why is it that we feel that we need to discuss Khadi year after year on Gandhi Jayanti? What is the significance? What is actually the future of Khadi? Does it have any future at all? So the whole concept of Khadi, is it limited to a fabric or is it a philosophy? And I strongly believe that it is a philosophy. It is not only a fabric, it is a philosophy. It's a fabric, yes. It's a wonderful fabric, breathable, low carbon footprint, as Alka ji just said, excellent fabric. But most of us who wear Khadi have other fabrics also in our wardrobe. It's not that we only wear Khadi. So what is Khadi all about? It is a philosophy, and we strongly believe it is a philosophy of reliance and sustainability taught to us by Mahatma Gandhi, who told us that don't be a consumer, be a producer. And I think as an academic, as a person who deals with youngsters every day, I think this is also our motto. Our prime ministers, our ministers, people who are interested in promoting the country, they all say that we must make in India. Well, I say we must design in India, we must make in India, and that is the philosophy behind Khadi that Gandhiji wanted us to follow. I have a little fact, I have a little page to show the facts and figures, because it is really worrisome that when did we start promoting Khadi? What was Khadi like, or what was the kind of fabric before the advent of the British? And then how do we take it forward? So Khadi was a symbol of self-reliance, a fight against British imports. And this figure, which comes to me from a book which I read called Hand Spinning and Hand Weaving, which was a collection of essays. In 1926, it was printed by All India Weavers Association, All India Spinners Association in Ahmedabad, 1926. Now, in that book, it is so beautifully given. And I reiterate, in the year 1813 to 1814, the cotton goods exported from India were of the cost of 52 lakhs 91,458. And the cotton goods imported into India were merely 92,000 something. Obviously, we all know mills came across. There was Manchester, which was, taking fabric from us, taking cotton from us, producing fabric and giving it back to the country cheap. And so from 1813, when we moved to 1832 and 33, we realize that our exports have dwindled to a mere 8 lakhs 22,000, whereas our imports have highly increased to 42 lakhs 64,000. What an amazing figure. And then उसके साइड में एक छोटा सा लिखा है cotton twist imported. Twist meaning yarn. So the cotton yarn we used to never import. We had our own cotton, we created our own yarn. And now, after the 1820s, we started importing yarn also. And eventually, by 1832-33, we were importing yarn to the tune of 42 lakhs of rupees. I mean, something that is indigenous to our country, that we were making. And that is why all this understanding comes of the way our weavers were suppressed, actually, at that point in time. And beautifully, in the essay, it is summed up also that the British studied everything, what was wanted in India, what was to be copied, how precisely we need to make it, the precision, how many dots should be there in a sari, what kind of a lungi should be there, what do Indians want? And all of that was being made across the oceans and being shipped to the country to be used. No wonder Gandhiji came up with the idea of create your own fabric. Why do you want to use all of this? Why do you want to drain your money across? And thus, the idea of khadi, the idea of self-reliance, produce for yourself. It was a thick fabric. How many times do people really want to wear that fabric? But it was a fabric which talked about self-reliance. All the brides in the 1930s and 40s wore khadi. I've read letters of some important women writing, who does not want to wear a Banarsi sari? Now, Banarsi sari is also made in India. Who does not want to wear a Banarsi sari on her wedding, but she's wearing a khadi? Khadi was a symbol of self-reliance, that we need to be self-reliant. And I think that is the future we are looking for today. In this next slide, we have a picture of our students who were standing that day and watching this lady spin the yarn on a charkha. And it was such a beautiful sight to see. And I took this picture and I thought that I might as well use it today for this presentation. Because we were all talking about the philosophy of khadi, philosophy of self-reliance and sustainability. Because sustainability definitely is the way forward. Surprisingly, when students asked me, लोग पहले sustainability की बात नहीं करते थे. So then we have to tell them we were always sustainable. तो कभी वो बात ही नहीं आती थी. Sustainability को हिंदी में क्या कहते हैं किसी को नहीं पता, कोई अच्छा शब्द ही नहीं है, क्योंकि वो था ही नहीं. क्योंकि वो sustainability already inherent थी हर चीज में, अलग से कोई शब्द ही नहीं था sustainability के लिए. So inculcating in youth the values of sustainability, meaning to learn to reduce, reuse and recycle, and to generate meaningful employment. When we talk of sustainability, when we talk of khadi, it means that we are generating employment for everybody. Gandhiji in his essays, he writes कि लोग 4 महीने खाली बैठते हैं, कम से कम yarn तो spin कर ही सकते हैं उस time पे. So I think that whole self-reliance is the philosophy. To be able to create products that we want to use, to be able to use indigenous skills and revive hand skills of craftsmen. So I think that is the future ahead. It has a bright future. It has really a bright future if we understand that khadi is the freedom to create our own, freedom to spin and weave our own fabric. It's the freedom of spirit and freedom from consumerism. Consume less, but consume with pride what you have created. I think that is what he meant. It shows respect for handcrafting and for humanity. And it also links various industries together. Because when we spin a yarn, we use a wooden charkha. So it gives employment to the person who's dealing with wood. It gives employment to all other industries associated. It means it is a means to satisfy needs. Probably not the greed of every human being, but to satisfy the need of every human being. And I think it's the epitome of simple living, high thinking. That is what he wanted to preach us. With that, and with with a little saying from one of the books that I read by Gandhiji, which said, "Khadi gaon ke saur mandal ke surya ke saman hai." Khadi is like the sun of the solar system, which is a village. बाकी विभिन्न उद्योग उन ग्रहों के समान हैं जो खादी से ऊर्जा और निर्वाह प्राप्त करते हैं, जिसके बदले उन्हें खादी का समर्थन करना चाहिए. And I completely support this statement. With that, I just wanted to share my humble thoughts on this. Again, thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Toolika ji, for that historical and philosophical perspective on Khadi. And our next speaker is Mr. Kishore Shah, co-founder and director of Khadi London. In fact, he discovered Khadi 50 years ago when he went to India and volunteered for the Sarvodaya movement, a land reform movement which had evolved into a movement for village autonomy. Mr. Kishore Shah co-founded Khadi London about 6 years ago. The social enterprise has gained from his familiarity with the specific issues around the production of Khadi and from his research, which includes an extensive study of artisans in India. He played an important role in finding a niche for Khadi within the ethical and sustainable fashion movement of UK. So I would now invite Mr. Kishore Shah for his presentation.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to participate. I missed another conference which I was involved in organizing in Jaipur in January, which is called the Globalization of Khadi. But this is, three of my colleagues were there. I couldn't make it, but this is a good opportunity to catch up on that. My presentation is going to look at how we can aim for transforming the whole textile industry using Khadi and handloom. And I'll start with, next slide, please. Next slide. I'll start with the global context, which is what I'm more familiar with. I haven't been to India for a while. But then I'd look at how that global context can be used as an advantage for Khadi, not just globally, but also in India. I think India is more important than global, if you're talking about Khadi. Then I'll talk about how we can support change that can make this transformation happen. And I think I'll end with, should we set up a goal for transformation? Not instead of just talking, can we have real targets that we can aim towards at the national level and maybe in Rajasthan? Next slide, please. So I'll start with the, there's been a very radical change in how people look at consumers generally. And it was more with food and housing. So you can get an idea. In 1999, there was about, in UK, ethical consumption was about $10 billion. And within 20 years, it has gone up to $40 billion, probably more now. That just gives an it's an illustration of how strongly people are thinking here about sustainability in their daily lives, in the way they consume, and in how they interact with the producers. Next slide, please. What was happening while this change in consumer wasn't taking place was more around food, around finance and ethical finance, around timber, but very little of it was around fashion. Fashion was going in a different direction. So you had, with globalization, you had very cheap clothes coming in from Bangladesh, from India, from China, and a t-shirt would be similar to a cost of a cup of coffee here. So people just bought, they would buy clothes almost every week, and most of it ending up in a landfill. That was going on, but suddenly I think the change came in around 5 years ago with the, what happened in Bangladesh. It's known as the Rana Plaza. The place called Rana Plaza in Dhaka, a building which housed where garment workers were working, it collapsed, and there were 1,138 people deaths on that day as a result of that collapse. And this became a big moment for the fashion movement in the West. They started looking at what are we really paying. Are we paying that £5 for the t-shirts, £5 or £3 for the t-shirt, or does it cost much more actually? Well, and there was a lot of introspection, people going forward, looking at what, how, whether they should change the fashion patterns, about whether there should be a change in how they buy the clothes. And next slide. So Rana Plaza was, brought about consciousness about cost, about paying fairly about working conditions in garment factories. But as the dialogue around fashion has developed, a lot of other factors are coming. Climate change, Khadi. I'd say it isn't zero carbon. I would say low carbon, because a lot of the processes involve a lot of energy use, especially the process going up to slaver production. This is something I'll come back to later. There's concern about environmental biodiversity. Cotton and sheep, as you know, are becoming more and more, the biodiversity is being lost. The indigenous sheep of Rajasthan is giving way to merino from Australia. You're losing the diversity you had in sheep varieties in Rajasthan. I think hardly any cotton is grown in Rajasthan, maybe in a few pockets, but that probably wasn't the case in the past. And as you can see from an example in Kutch, it can be revived. There must be cotton seeds in different regions of Rajasthan, which you can start bringing back and reviving. There's concern about waste. With a lot of clothes, people buying a lot of clothes, it's all going into the landfill. There's waste around productions. And I think increasingly there's a concern around water pollution. The three different sources of water pollution that fashion contributes towards. One is pesticides, and for cotton now in India, and I think internationally also, it's one of the biggest consumer of pesticides. It's more than food production, especially with the genetically modified BT cotton, which is now about 95% of cotton cultivation in India. It might have gone down in recent years because organic is coming up. There's a plastic pollution. Increasingly, there's a shift from natural fibers to plastic fibers for textiles. And that I think it's now almost half of or maybe even more than half of the clothes produced are plastic synthetics, either acrylic or polyester or some other synthetic. And what happens when you use those clothes, when you wash them, there's the plastic microfibers go into the wash, into the water system. And there's a concern that there is now one of the major contributors towards river and ocean pollution. Another major factor, which I think Rajasthan should be conscious of, is pollution coming from printing and dyeing. It's the lot of the chemicals which are now used are highly they're very toxic, sometimes cancerous, and printing and dyeing is now leading to unusable water in places like Dhaka. This photo here is from CNN from a recent report. It's from Pali. And I think even in Bagru and Sanganer, there is concern about the chemicals being used and how they're going into the water system. If you look at overall, in terms of energy use, fashion industry is one of the major contributors towards climate change. And within that, textile accounts for about 80% of the energy use within the fashion industry. So production of textiles, khadi and handloom can help a lot in moving away from that. 1/5 of the water pollution is caused by fashion, especially in the oceans. So I think that these are the factors which people are becoming more conscious about in the West. I think increasingly also in India. And that brings us, next slide, please. So with this consciousness, you can see on the bottom right, there's an infographic, not very visible, but it shows how it shows how that consciousness is converting into actual buying, consuming patterns. So in a survey, they found that almost 50% over all age groups, people were willing to pay more for eco-friendly products. And I mean, that again is an advantage in terms of market. And I think Khadi, and I would include handloom here, has the advantage because we're looking at natural fibers. And I would say that, if we can, let's move away from this thing called polyvastra, which isn't Khadi, but which is certified by KVIC. I'm personally concerned about that. And I understand a lot of the large Khadi organizations, they're dependent on polyvastra more than on cotton and woolen Khadi. There's now a demand for products which are handmade, which have low energy, which people can do themselves. We've been having classes using a petty charkha in London. They've been very popular. So there's a move towards craftsmanship. There's a move towards making your own thing. There's a move towards buying things which are handmade, which have a low energy consumption. People want fair remuneration. At least Khadi has, since about 100 years since Gandhi started, this was a very important aspect of Khadi, that people should be paid fair. I remember Vinoba carried out an experiment trying to make his own livelihood using a charkha. And he found out that what the people were being paid, the spinners, was it's about 1/5 of what they should be paid if they were to make a livelihood from that. And then he had a dialogue with the Charkha Sangh at that time, and they managed to raise it not to as much as Vinoba had liked it, but at least to a decent level. And since then, payments and welfare remuneration to spinners, to viewers within the Khadi sector has been important. And I think it has gained much more importance in the last 3-4 years. The payments have gone up substantially since about 2015-16. So again, there's something which we don't talk about, but which has a resonance in the West, that we know that Khadi is a fair trade, and in many instances, even handloom, but it's not always the case in handloom. There's an interest in finding out about what all the products we make, where they are made, the story behind them. And I think, again, Khadi has an advantage that, especially, not always, but in many of the cases which are coming up, the stories are very clear. People know where the cotton is made. They know where it's spun. They know where it's woven. And that's the advantage that Khadi has in the global market now. Unfortunately, there's been very little branding. There's been very little consciousness about Khadi in the West. When we started about 5 years ago, people would talk about, we talk to a fashion class, ask how many people knew about Khadi. Maybe 0, maybe 1 out of 20, 30. That is changing now. And we now have a Khadi project in one of the prestigious textile colleges. It's a high-ranking world textile college, Chelsea College of Arts. So we're running a Khadi project with them. It started in February. It had to be put off because of pandemic. We're going to pick up again in October. So I think that kind of consciousness is coming up in UK and increasingly, and much more so in India also. People in India, when we started Khadi, there was very little interest, but the younger generation in India has really picked up on it. So how do we build up on that advantage? I think today, if you really want to build on that advantage, you need to look away from the conventional Khadi operations and look at a larger picture which is emerging within the Khadi sector in India and within the handloom sector. There are new players. Earlier, farmers were not really involved in Khadi production. So there are a lot of organizations now. Gram Seva Mandal in Maharashtra is one. There's Tula in South India, where the farmers are directly connected to the production system in one way or another. There was a big divide between Khadi and handloom sector, which is beginning to be bridged. So the handloom weavers are now coming more into Khadi weaving. NGOs are coming more into, as they get the funding from the West is declining, they're looking at social enterprise, and Khadi handloom are an important part of that. Designers, we have designers in UK, we've been touching designers in India. Increasing number of designers are doing Khadi. They're working directly with spinners and weavers to produce their own Khadi, design their own Khadi. Then there are professionals, the people from the management, people from IT, they're going back. They want to do something for the villages, sometimes just living the jobs and doing it, sometimes doing it as a part-time. There's an organization active in Madhya Pradesh called Shramdan. These are management graduates, IT professionals who left their jobs. They were inspired by Jain Sadhu, and they took 6 months course to learn weaving themselves in Indore. And they're now working in the sector of both handloom and Khadi. Tula, which I talked about, is started by Anantu, who he's an engineer. He worked in India, then he went to Switzerland, and then they decided to give it all up. Went to Chennai, and they started working with farmers, trying to organize an organic farm chain so that people in Chennai could get organic produce easily. What they found was that some of the organic farmers were interested in growing cotton. They were interested in growing organic cotton. So then to support that, they started Tula, which buys cotton from the farmers, gets this processed through Khadi organizations, and then sells it in the market, makes clothes out of it and sells it in the market. So there's lots of examples of this coming along. The private sector is getting more involved. Raymond, now has its own Khadi brand. Arvind has been involved for a long time. Khadi denim has been used by Levi's and Gap. So I think Khadi is getting a much broader ownership, much broader visual, and people recognizing it. There are new approaches to Khadi. There's a focus on organic and natural in small pockets, but it's growing. There's a focus on indigenous seeds. There's focus on connecting farming and production of textiles in a very integrated manner. Gram Hon'ble again is a very good example of that. In Gujarat, you have Khamir, and we have Udyog Bharti, which is working with Jatan Trust, working with the part of Udyog Bharti's production is now Khadi, working with farmers in the district. The slaver is made in the district, and the whole process takes place there. So you have a lot of this new energy coming in. And I think what we need to do now is bring the best of local traditions and modern technology to take Khadi forward. And I think the next thing is networking and collaborations. It's happened a lot in organic farming, and it's now time for that to happen in fabrics. I think we try to give this whole movement a conceptual support, turning. So Khadi is about decentralization. It need not be it's no longer hand woven, spun. I think that's a misnomer. With Amber Charkas, a lot of the hand spinning part is gone. And with solar. So we need to recognize that. And we need to give, we call it spindle to solar. So let whatever is appropriate in which situation, we need to recognize that. But the focus should be on decentralized production, ideally in a cluster of few villages, if not in a larger region. There should be a focus on maximum value addition source and diversity of seeds, production, and methods, and make it democratic, like the artisans and farmers be involved in the process, have the ownership and control. So we call it decentralized, diverse, and democratic. And next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, I think you already got it. Next one now. Yeah. To support this now, this what we call the 3Ds, the systems of decentralized, democratic, and diverse systems of production. We need. There are different ways that the government and the industry can support that. One, just try to identify a few. It's research and documentation. When you talk about zero carbon, well, there's hardly any documentation to show that Khadi is zero carbon or low carbon. There's very little solid research showing that. So we need studies of impact validation. We need studies. There can be a research on the new initiatives which are coming up, do an inventory of that, document that. You need to support educational initiatives in this direction. In UK, we're doing it with the fashion colleges here. I think it's happening in India also. But how do we accelerate that? That's the question. It's happening in small ways. How can it be institutionalized? How can it be accelerated? And I think very important thing is talking about what's going on. If you can assess it, it helps in scaling up. If you have the figures, it helps in getting funding for scaling up. So I think an assessment of what's impact assessment is very important. It can be both qualitative and quantitative. You also need to look at pilots, which can be scaled up, look at how scaling takes place, and the idea of technology transfer. Technology transfer in the sense that India with Khadi and handlooms has a unique technology, which can be transferred to other countries, especially cotton growing countries in Africa and in Central Asia. This is something where I think FICCI can take a lead in. And in terms of technology and pilots, we can look at different kinds of models. Some which are, as you can see on the top right-hand corner, is an image from Ponduru. We got it from Dastkar Samiti. And they're working with very basic tools, producing very high quality khadi and using indigenous seeds. And then at the other end, you have solar charkhas, which can have a different function. It can, it's not exactly artisanal, but it can be decentralized, especially if it's in the hands of the communities. And it can start competing with the market, with the mill sector and the powerloom sector. So you need to have models from very basic to very sophisticated, but the principle should be, they should be decentralized, diverse, and democratic. And if you can use technology and these three principles, you can start scaling up. And I think, as I'll show in the next slide, you can scale up considerably. And then you need, I think there's something which the industry and commerce can come in, provide fellowships, corporate volunteering in the area of Khadi. Next slide, please. Yeah, you already did that. So I would suggest to end that should we start thinking about setting a transformative target? They have about 400 successful clusters working on Khadi in an innovative way. It could be the Ponduru model, it could be the solar model, working. They set a target of 400 successful clusters by 2025. I'm talking about an all India level. Rajasthan could set its own target. And right now, I might be slightly wrong, the market share for Khadi and handloom in India is about 5% of the total textile market. Can we change it to 25% by 2025? I think instead of just talking in abstract, we should start planning and see how we can make a really significant change. If we look at this kind of targets, start planning, see how it can be done. We can do it. Yes, we can. So before ending, I'll just bring in Gandhiji, and one of his famous quotes that I like is, in a small way, we can change the world. So I think let's do it in a small way, start in a small way, think big, start planning big, and change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah, for that comprehensive overview and vision for the development of Khadi and handloom sector. And in fact, the 3D concept and the concept of thinking big and taking baby steps towards achieving that. We will look forward to work in that direction. Our next speaker is Ms. Laila, who is chairperson of Dastkar, and she is a craft designer, writer, and the craft NGO Dastkar that she formed, she helped. She has been working with grassroots artisans all over India for 4 decades, and many of her most rewarding projects involve creating new livelihood avenues through craft and pastoral and marginalized rural communities, bonded labor in Bihar, displaced villages in Ranthambore, tribals in Odisha, victims of insurgency in Kashmir. And Miss Laila Tyabji studied arts in Baroda in Japan, and she worked as a freelance designer in textiles, graphics, interiors, the theatre, and she was awarded the Padma Shri Award in 2012. Over to you, ma'am. Honored to have you with us. Please.
Thank you. So handlooms and khadi are the warp and weft of the Indian subcontinent. Our culture, our aesthetics, our economy are rooted in its threads. And handloom weavers form the major part of our handicraft sector, which in turn is the second largest sector of our economy. Kabir, the beloved 15th century mystic weaver poet, said, God Almighty is also a weaver. The spinning of yarn and weaving of handloom cloth is a metaphor used over the ages for creation, for the interplay of gender, culture, community, skills that make up our universe. The message in these verses is that the mingling of multiplicity and diversity leads to unity and strength, and that when different strands come together, they create a fabric that is not only beautiful, but resilient and durable. This is a vital metaphor for the world today in these increasingly divisive times. Khadi and village industries are part of India's culture and aesthetic. They are also an integral part of its economic and employment structure, employing approximately 46 lakh people and generating over 3,500 crores a year. For some Indians, khadi is a philosophy. For many others, it's a fabric that lacks functionality and consumer appeal and is also highly priced and expensive to maintain. This is mainly due to bad management. Globalization and liberalization have changed the face of the Indian market and the psyche of the Indian consumer. We cannot remain oblivious of this. If khadi and craft are to survive, they cannot remain static, locked in outdated mindsets, obsolete production systems, and outmoded marketing strategies. Specialists in this classic Indian textile tradition, like Martin Singh, Tara Gandhi, Rakesh Thakur, Rita Kapoor, Ritu Kumar, Srila Devi, Rajesh Pratap Singh, Jagada Rajappa, Neeru Kumar, have all done extraordinary work in khadi. Malka and Khamir have revived indigenous cotton types and made wonderful fabrics and garments with contemporary appeal. Their success in the market shows khadi can sell if it is removed from the clutches of KVIC. KVIC, however, is fighting over the right of using the word khadi and instead of trying to modernize and market itself. Instead of being delighted that more and more people are becoming aware of the potential and benefits of khadi, they are squabbling over the right to call it khadi. Many of those officially mandated to the preservation of khadi see any change in traditional production and marketing systems as a threat to intrinsic Gandhian values. Even raising prices is considered taboo, so khadi mainly survives on subsidies. They forget that Gandhiji was not only a philosopher saint, but a supreme realist. As long ago as 1920, he observed that all khadi is not equally good quality. It easily crumples, and coat and trousers do not remain stiff. It shrinks so much. Gandhi was someone who understood and used the media and mass psychology with style and savvy. He advocated the promotion of khadi by a variety of methods, improving and diversifying its quality, design, and usage, propagating its cool, user-friendly comfort, stressing the benefits to the domestic economy of buying and wearing indigenously produced fabric, and making wearing khadi a symbol of national pride. Gandhi's message is as relevant today as 3/4 of a century ago. The market for khadi is made up of three distinct segments. The traditional Khadi buyer, who wears Khadi often as a political or social message. The aesthetically aware Indian who wears handlooms and traditional Indian dress as an ethnic fashion statement. And the new international buyer who has recently become aware of Khadi as an eco-friendly, politically correct fabric with a story that can become its own advertising pitch, i.e. spun by third world women producers and associated with Gandhi and the freedom movement. All three consumer segments have huge potential for growth. However, the inability of most Khadi production to meet delivery deadlines, achieve product standardization, and follow current trends is a major deterrent to all segments of the market. Its failure to attract new customers and increase its market share is also due to poor marketing and promotion. Despite its many unique characteristics, Khadi sales have failed to keep up with production capability and its potential for employment generation. As Gandhi said 100 years ago, most Khadi produced today is unsuitable for stitched and Western wear garments. It does not fall and drape well, it crumples in bags, and those qualities of Khadi that do meet the requirement of the ready-to-wear industry are not available in bulk. So, any recommendations for a new Khadi strategy must therefore begin with the basics. It means starting from the cotton itself, not with hosting fashion shows of Khadi, because doing that should be the end of the process, not the beginning. So we need to reintroduce varieties of indigenous cotton and upgrade the spinning and weaving technology. We need to make improvements in fabric construction and diversification and innovation in counts, qualities, and ranges. We need to document Khadi techniques and traditional skills, the varieties and designs, as well as modern innovative developments. We need to have a database and sample and swatch bank of all the Khadi varieties nationwide, since every part of India, every region has its own distinctive cotton, its own distinctive weaves, and its own distinctive qualities. And we need to have the numbers and production capacities of these various producers. There needs to be standardization in production systems, in storage and delivery mechanisms. And we definitely need to upgrade the product range by improving the quality, color, count, specifications of Khadi that are available in the market. So, given the two different types of people who buy Khadi, we have the ones who want the classic traditional regional saris, and we need to market those as a classic Khadi collections. But we also need to develop simple, stylish, contemporary ranges of men and women's ready to wear. And we need to drastically improve the stitching, sizing, and tailoring of Khadi products currently available in the KVICs. Development of product ranges and styles must be for both the upper end of the urban consumer market and the rural market, who still would buy Khadi if it was available readily and at appropriate prices. Once we've got all that going, then comes the marketing and promotion, packaging and presentation. There's no point, again, putting the cart before the horse and developing a marketing and media package when you don't have your product and you don't have your production systems ready to go. But having done that, we then need to have an advertising and media campaign nationwide, appealing particularly to millennials who are really unaware of the qualities of Khadi. We need to train and motivate the sales staff in KVIC outlets and sensitize them to contemporary marketing techniques as well as the significance of the fabric that they sell. They should be given exposure to retailing methods, display and promotion techniques, and salesmanship. I think all of us have had that experience of going to a Khadi Bandar and a very lethargic, disinterested salesperson sort of, when you point to something up there and say, can I see that? And they say, oh, wohi cheez hai jo aapko dikh raha hai, magar color alag hai. So we do need to train people in marketing. We also need, I think, to take Khadi out of the Khadi Bhandars. It doesn't always have to be sold exclusively to KVIC. Khadi should be showcased and available in all kinds of different forums. Yes, the fashion shows and international trade fairs, because that gets you eyeballs, but it also should be in Khadi mailers, in TV serials, in mail order catalogs, and exclusive boutiques. Developing a domestic and international network of wholesale bulk buyers is very, very important. At least 50% of annual turnover should be produced against actual orders, because otherwise you end up with these storerooms just piled high with khadi and with rats running all over it, and then which you try to sell by reducing the prices down. The world is suddenly talking natural materials, green, e-commerce, friendly, slow fashion, handmade, handloom, handspun have become literally fashion labels. This is the moment for Khadi. Let's not fight over who can use it by its name. Khadi is Indian, it belongs to all of us. In the 17th century, India clothed the world. Let's do it again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and for that passionate and touching story about the development of handloom and khadi in India. In fact, if you recall, I was mentioning before the program also, we had this intervention wherein we got artisans from Ruda display their products at Aga Khan Hall in Delhi and provide some mode of market access. Now we are caught in a pandemic, so for the transient period of time, if we can do an online linkage of you are also doing a lot of things, and we can also work it over. We have recently done a big textile fair by the name Vastra, but then this is something that could be done for the handloom weavers and artisans specifically. So let's see how we proceed on this. Our next speaker is Mr. Dhiraj Srivastava, who is Commissioner of Rajasthan Foundation. Rajasthan Foundation is an institution that connects emotionally, socially, culturally, economically with the Rajasthani diaspora, and it's almost 19 years ever since it has been formed. And Mr. Srivastava has a rich experience of working with government of Rajasthan and at national level also. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Very good afternoon, everybody. And a respected Chief Guest, Arvind Mayaram Saab, was Vice Chairman of Chief Minister's Economic Advisory Council and also advisor to CM. A very warm welcome to all the dignitaries, industry members, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be part of today's webinar on future of handloom and khadi that aims to revive, restore, and infuse fresh energy into the handloom sector and take it to newer heights. I would like to compliment FICCI for this particular initiative and also providing me with an opportunity to share my thoughts. We are all celebrating 150 years of Mahatma Gandhi and organizing this on the eve of Gandhi Jayanti, which makes it even more special. Khadi for Gandhiji was symbolic of Indian self-respect and self-reliance. Khadi has also been a symbol of our freedom struggle and is relevant even today in terms of empowering villages and communities, especially women and tribals. Our Honorable Chief Minister Shri Ashok Gehlot himself is deeply committed to the Gandhian philosophy, and this subject is very, very close to his heart. He's a true Gandhian. There is also a heightened interest and demand for handloom products like never before. And time is right that we strengthen the entire value chain, especially designing and marketing, to unleash the real value and potential of this sector. Khadi's organic and zero carbon footprint nature allows us to believe that a lot can be done combining the different natural fibers of our country and by keeping the original essence of Khadi and still making it fit for the modern society. The pandemic COVID-19 have really affected this sector badly. We must leverage technology to connect the artisans with national and international buyers. Post-COVID era, innovative marketing strategies will be the need of the hour. E-commerce giants like Amazon and Azure are already beginning to sell handlooms. Collaboration may be explored with individual donors and corporate to help weavers sustain for the next few months and to rebuild the value chain to prevent weavers from mitigating to other professions. The market may respond differently in the post-COVID-19 scenario. We need to find ways to help weavers directly sell their products. While craft organizations are trying to help, government bodies are also finding ways to address the concerns of the handloom and craft sectors. Various NGOs have initiated crowdsourced contingency funds aiming to raise some money to help its weaver clusters. Aggressive online campaigns like Support Khadi or Wear Khadi by celebrities or promote on social platforms to make it more visible. On a brighter side, the lockdown has made people appreciate things that are local. In a bid to rekindle the love for handlooms, Go Coop launched the Kindness in Kind campaign a few days ago, inviting customers to post photographs of their favorite artisanal products. Though the pace of technological development in rural cottage and village industries, including Khadi sector in India, has been extremely slow, KVIC can play an important role in constant promotion of Khadi, especially among youth. And I cannot agree more than Lala Tyabji what just mentioned, that the showroom condition and the techniques to train the showroom guys really is need of the hour. Initiatives may be taken through research and development to modify the techniques for improving raw material, invent newer blends which will overcome the problem of maintenance and cost, as it will encourage the consumer to buy and wear Khadi. Substantial efforts need to be taken in order to reduce the cost and make it more consumer friendly for its awareness and promotion. As far as young generation is concerned, they are aware about Khadi fabric, but not ready to accept it as major part of their wardrobe. This is mainly due to limitations like less availability of colors, prints, textures, etc. Landing Khadi in a sustainable way is what we need to look at. Hence, transform from the origin of dyeing Khadi with vegetable dyes by adding natural medicinal herbs like neem, tulsi, mint, cardamom, thyme, kola kolsa, etc. This will allow Khadi to be a smart fabric with medicinal values also. Khadi is emerging as a fashion fabric. Leading national and international designers indulges with Khadi is forcing fashion world to take serious note of it in India as well as abroad. The study on this shows a lot of scope for research which can be carried out maybe by researchers as well as by designers to make Khadi more popular, which would help building this cottage industry well in our country. As mentioned, Rajasthan Foundation is making its efforts through various programs at national and international level to give our prominent Rajasthani diaspora a platform to connect with their motherland. Through our WhatsApp groups, we are connecting with NRRs globally, organizing VCs with certain senior government officials for them as per their interest areas. We have organized VC of international NRRs with Honorable Chief Minister also. We will be more than happy and willing to extend whatever cooperation we can through our national and international network in this handloom movement. We will definitely keep handloom and Khadi sector as our prime agenda while interacting with like-minded NRRs. I must mention here that as of now also, we still have certain queries from leading NRR in UAE and to know if Rajasthan can provide disposable patta donas to replace plastics. There's a huge demand, and if we can come up with a plan and I'll be very happy to extend my help and cooperation in this sector. I once again thank FICCI for organizing this crucial webinar and wish all the success to the handloom movement. Thank you once again. Stay safe.
Thank you, sir. Sustainability and inclusion, these are the some underlying themes of all the addresses and presentations that we have seen till now, and the design intervention has also come as a major input. So we have the two institutes present here, many more who would be listening, a key role to play in the resurrection of Khadi and handloom in Rajasthan and country as a whole. Now we have with us our chief guest, Dr. Arvind Mayaram, who is economic advisor to Honorable Chief Minister of Rajasthan and vice chairman of Rajasthan Economic Transformation Advisory Council. Many of you would be knowing that he has held very important positions like Finance Secretary, Government of India, Special Secretary in the Ministry of Rural Development. He was alternate governor to India on the board of World Bank, ADB, African Development Bank. He was India's finance deputy in G20 and BRICS. He was on the boards of Reserve Bank of India and SEBI. And he was India's chief negotiator for BRICS New Development Bank and Asian Infrastructure Development Bank and co-chairman of the Framework Working Group of G20. He has spearheaded the establishment of framework for mainstreaming public-private partnership in India and designed the first PPP module for delivering infrastructure in rural areas. In fact, he is considered to be an authority on public-private partnership. And he was vice president of the World Association of Investment Promotion Agency, formed under the aegis of UNCTAD, UNIDO, FIAS, and MIGA for 2 terms in early 2000. He has been an investment promotion expert with UNCTAD for several years, and his experience in the area of PPP is internationally acknowledged. And in Rajasthan also, he has held positions of Industry Secretary, Planning Secretary, and Commissioner Investments. So with such a rich and wide experience, we would be delighted to listen to your views. Over to you, sir. Sir, you are on mute.
Thank you very much. First of all, I must acknowledge that whatever experience that you have reeled out that I've gained over years doesn't make me eligible to be speaking with some authority on the subject today. I think we already have had some authoritative discourse on this with very eminent people, including Ms. Tyabji, who's a renowned expert in the field. So I don't think I would be able to add very much to what already has been said, but I would like to bring a different perspective to what we have discussed today. And let me try and say this. There are two, the problem is and this is true for most things that we do in India, we get caught into a large number of contradictory objectives or principles that drive us to achieve something. In the case of Khadi, we get very emotional. It is Gandhiji's gift to us, and this has been there for us. It is part of the freedom movement and so on. And then we are also looking at the commercial world as it has developed over the last 70, 100 years. We are a globalized nation. We want to be right in the front of developed countries. We want everyone in this country to get good jobs or good livelihoods and good earnings. So there is this whole issue of romanticizing the past and then not being able to deal with the present. So I think what Ms. Tyabji said, I am very much in consonance with that. We need to begin to look at it as a hardcore economic activity. And the principle before us today is that if 80 or 88% or 90% of India's population is engaged in the informal sector, then both handloom and khadi are very large components of this informal sector, which employs people. So look at it this way, if you were to, and that's why I have a bit of a conceptual problem when we move towards solarization, as Mr. Shah mentioned. of looms, because the moment you move towards that, you're moving towards organized production of khadi. And then you are shrinking the space for employment for a very large number of people in the rural areas, because that kind of solarized production cannot happen in the kind of decentralized world that we live in India today. So we need to be mindful of our definitions. I think we should not blur our definitions. So number one, we are looking at khadi and handloom as mainstay of our rural occupation or employment, which is non-farm in nature, till such time that we can organize or urbanize our population to the extent that they are not dependent on this, on occupations in the rural areas, which is going to take quite a while. Number two, we are looking at competition with a highly commercialized world. I would say consumerism drives, and that's where I would differ with Ms. Toolika Gupta. Consumerism is driving what we call growth, what we call GDP, what we call, and today what has happened? Because consumption has collapsed, the Indian economy has gone into contraction close to 24 or 25%. This is collapse of consumption. And what is consumption? It is consumerism. We cannot hide from these realities in a very romantic world of saying that we should need and not greed, etc. Greed drives consumerism. I want people to be greedy for khadi, and that is the only way that khadi will be purchased by people and more people will start buying it. So how do we make people greedy for khadi or handloom? And there again, I think a lot of things have been said. But I do believe that we need to, as Ms. Tyabji said, and I'm sorry, Ms. Tyabji, I'm drawing a lot upon what you've said, but I think it makes almost eminent sense. One problem that we see is the KVIC. Way back when I was in finance ministry, we tried very hard and we pushed for a loan of close to 500 crores for the khadi sector, by saying that we need certain reforms. For instance, cost charts in khadi. Cost charts in khadi kill the weaver. They actually put a ceiling on how much a weaver can earn. Now, cost charts were put in place 70 years ago, 60 years ago, because at that point of time, cost chart was giving you a minimum wage. So you said not below this. So you have costed the labor cost, the material cost, etc., and said this is what you should get. Today that has become a ceiling for the labor. So you go to, in Jaipur, for instance, we have had khadi exhibitions. You go and see the shawls, the beautiful shawls that are produced for women by khadi in Bikaner. We have a lot of these khadi producers in Bikaner who produce. Urmul has done a lot of work on that also. They produce, and you get a shawl for 500 rupees, 450 rupees. And you go to a Delhi showroom anywhere, bulk of these are purchased at 400 rupees from these khadi, kind of exhibitions or khadi bhandars, etc. And they're sold for 2,000 rupees, 2,500 rupees. Now, out of this 500 rupees, the weaver is getting maybe 100, 150 rupees because of the cost chart. So we need to move, or we need actually, on the contrary of what we believe, we need to move towards the market linkage. We need to move towards, and therefore what we had suggested in that particular reform, which KVIC actually stymied and didn't allow to happen, was there has to be some sort of a revenue share model for the artisan. And therefore, if you're selling something at 2,000, you free the cost or free the sale price. Let the price be determined by the market. But whatever you are doing, you minimum wage you have given to him, whatever minimum wages, and then whatever is the profit that anybody else is making, let there be a share in that profit to the artisans who have made it. We need to move towards market linkages and market realization of value. And this is something we need to work very hard towards. Marketing, again, I'm completely against the idea that marketing should be limited to only khadi ghars. And by the way, khadi is not just an Indian idea. I mean, it is a subcontinental idea because I went to Pakistan and I saw huge showrooms which say Khadi products. In Pakistan, they produce Khadi and they sell Khadi and they promote Khadi for the simple reason that they're also in the rural areas. If there is no other occupation they can provide, Khadi becomes the kind of non-farm additional income to those who are on doing farming and have not earning enough. So I think we need to move out of Khadi bhandars. I would be very happy if the entire value chain is created. So I think Khadi should also be sold in Lajpat Nagar and Sarojini Nagar at a price which is affordable to that category of people who go and buy there. And it should also be available in Ritu Kumar showroom at a price which is affordable by somebody else. After all, when we go and buy clothes, we don't buy clothes only in boutique shops. So why is it that we push only, Ritu Kumars and others to come and start doing this? How much can they do? How can you scale that up? When Mr. Shah says 25% of the market should be with Khadi, how do you get there if you are only going to be limited to these high fashion showrooms? So you need an entire value chain where Khadi or handlooms can be sold right from Lajpat Nagar right up to the best boutiques in the world. And so we need to produce at every level. And I think institutions like IICD, which I'm so happy because I was associated with its formation and its institution, IICD or Pearl Academy or other similar kind of institutions must begin to look at providing inputs which can design for each segment in the market, the buyer segment in the market, not just for the high-end fashion designers. So this is something else that we need to look at, and design therefore becomes important. Freeing the market with certain security nets in terms of the pricing is another one. I think a lot of work has been done. I acknowledge that in terms of designing, redesigning hand tools for those who are weaving, handlooms or khadi. But much more needs to be done to increase their productivity, because one very critical thing we must remember is in Bihar, Laila Tyabji has worked there, or in Rajasthan or anywhere else. Very large number of people who were in the handloom handicraft sector actually go and look for jobs under MG Narega because they can earn more there than they can earn producing the handicrafts. Do we really, and in any of these institutions like IIC, do we really do the economics of handloom or khadi? What the economics means that if we are looking at a person, I mean, his sustenance level for a person's earning is going to be 200 to 300 rupees a day. Can the person in khadi or handloom sector, weaver in khadi or handloom sector, earn that much of money? 300. If not, you will have these artisans in flocks moving away to other places, construction industry in Bombay, construction industry in Delhi, into MG Narega, into anything else, but they will not be in the khadi or weaving sector. So we need to look at the economics of it and see how do we improve productivity and how do we improve price realization for their products, so they continue to provide us with the joy of their skill, which has been passed on through years. And how do we get younger people to get into that particular field? After all, master craftsmen, I've seen so many people, weavers. I've seen, for instance, I was in minorities ministry also for a while. I went to Banaras and I went to other places to see how the people were, into. The younger people don't get into it. The older people who are there are continuing to produce it, but you will see very soon they will lose it because they don't want to go there because there is not enough earning and there's not enough dignity in it. So I think we need to answer the structural issues more comprehensively. I think we need to do a little more hard thinking in it, move away from romanticizing this sector, become more pragmatic and practical. And I think at the bottom line, at the is going to be how economics plays out in terms of what the artisan or the weaver can realize from what it produces. That at the end is going to be what determines whether these will survive or they will be overtaken by more machine made and other kind of items. Thank you very much for inviting me to be with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, in fact, for bringing a right perspective to the entire discussion. In fact, what you said, ultimately, it's the market dynamics that will decide the revival and survival. The stimulus can be a transient factor in this. And moving forward, we have some questions also. We will take a closing comments from all the panelists before we invite Wandana Parnami ji for the concluding remarks, and I will try and read those questions in my request itself. So first, I would request Mr. Randhir Vikram Singh. There is a question that how tourism industry looks at the intangible heritage things like local art. It talks about performing arts as well as the arts and crafts like handicrafts and handloom industry also.
It's very important that the performing arts, the art and culture are part and parcel of tourism industry, because most of our hotels which are in rural areas depend a lot on the local crafts and arts. So they are intermingling with each other. So, and they're very, very important for us.
Thank you. Now the next question is for Ms. Alka Madhan, if she can throw some insight on this, that how people will decide on the legitimacy of a particular product, whether it's an original handloom or a silk sari or a khadi product. Is there any certification mechanism already in place? Any idea?
I believe in most of the places there are certificates, especially with the handloom places, but not everywhere. If you especially look at the e-commerce sites and if you buy products for there, they may be saying handloom and all, but there are no certifications there. But if you go to authentic shops, you go to these handloom, so there are certificates which actually says also, the label says that how much it contains which product.
We need authentic certification for buyers at all platforms.
I believe we should look at that. It's high time. And who says that these labels are authentic or not, that is also a bigger question.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, I will request Toolika ji for a closing comments, and there is a related question also that talks about the affordability of the handloom products. They are heavily priced in comparison to their machine-made peers. So how do that question get answered? Otherwise, it will remain in a niche segment. You are on mute, ma'am. Toolika ji, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, it wasn't allowing me to unmute. I think because my sort of connection and I came in again. So it wasn't allowing. So yeah, see, the thing is, it is very complicated. As Sir rightly said, Dr. Mayaram sir said that we need to drive consumers. But if we do that, it is really multi-layered. A lot of us who actually deal with it on a daily basis feel that, at least I feel that certain handloom products are highly priced because it has to be sustainable for the weaver also. If a weaver takes 10 days to weave a sari, then you have to give him something per day, which is a decent amount. And thus, the cost of hand-woven products goes high because there is silk or cotton or whatever. There is a initial cost of the yarns, and then it is his daily work that he's doing. So obviously, there are products which will cost high. Then if you compare them to machine-made products, and machine-made products are cheaper because a lot of them can be produced in a single day. And that is why the cost of the machine-made products will be cheaper. Uh, when we say we want to promote handlooms, and that is why I showed those figures also, for the last 200 years, we've been suffering. And it is commendable that we are still trying for the last 100 years to revive this industry, because uh, we look at the people who were supporting it earlier. There were two kinds of people: one who were weaving and wearing their own clothes, and others who were weaving for the patrons. So because they were patrons, they could afford whatever. Today they are consumers. Everybody wants कम खर्च में ज्यादा आए. अगर दूसरे कंट्री से हम सस्ते में खरीद सकेंगे तो हम क्यों अपने कंट्री का खरीदेंगे? Not everybody thinks like this. It's my country, I should buy. So there, it is multi-layered. And that is why the costs, because we want our weaver also to earn properly. We don't want others to get cheaper products at the cost of the weaver. There is no single answer to it. Costs should come low. Government keeps trying to give subsidies because of that reason, so that it's low and people can buy. But then because subsidies are given, very good quality products are not created, because they know they can, do away with whatever. And only people who come in themselves, like Dastkar or other designers, they work hard, they pay the weavers also well, and they create good quality products. That is why then sometimes prices are high or low depending on the input that goes in. So I mean, there is no one single answer, but the answer is that because most of the people are consumers, they want cheap products, they want good products. That is why they are not ready to patronize the crafts the way the earlier generation used to do, or the niche clientele does today. And when we look into the economics, it is very, very complicated. You can't provide everything for everybody at a low cost until and unless it's machine made. Again, it comes back to that. And so there is this dichotomy. But I sincerely feel that yes, we should promote handcrafts. It is our country. We should promote it. We should do the best that we can. But competition is difficult. There are two different layers completely.
If I can add something here, it is like, organic farming versus the other farming. Organic products, which we use, fruits or vegetables, are expensive versus the other. It is the choice. It's a choice the consumer makes, that what is good for me,
Yeah, so exactly. Consume less, but consume good quality. If all of us do that, then we can do Khadi. Then we can
Thank you. We are running out of time. Quickly, one for Mr. Kishore Shah. Okay, what are the technological intervention possible in increasing the production of Khadi, and if it will remain handmade, hand woven, then how we will achieve the scalability part in it? So, Mr. Shah, you would like to say something on this?
I think for me, definition of Khadi is not necessarily handmade. A lot of it is already not handmade. If you look at Amber Charka, it's not really handmade. And the health issues concerned with Amber Charka, which is sometimes 16 spindles, have been highlighted. It's not really very healthy. There are health and safety issues there. I think I would remove the idea of handmade from there. The idea of decentralized production, I think, is important, with as many components of handmade, as much power with the people as possible. What was the question exactly?
The question was, how do we achieve scalability if we focus on handmade? But then you said technology, handmade can be a segment, but then technology intervention is necessary.
Yeah, I think examples of Malka and Khamir, which Laila ji also referred to, they are very good examples of combining handmade with machinery. And if you look at slaver production, it's done in six slaver units in India. It's not handmade. And that's an important part of it.
Thank you. And this one is for Ms. Laila Tyabji. Can there be a weaver's guild with high quality curated products for hand woven and handmade, through which products are available for people around the world? It's talking about idea of weaver's guild. What is your take on it, ma'am?
I think that one of the things that we are very fortunate about in India is that we have markets at multiple levels. So we have consumers also of a very varied number. And then we have producers of handlooms and khadi who also have multiple skills and are at different levels. And we need to match these we need not get too focused either on high end or low end or, sarkari bandar end. I just want to say, as a sort of conclusion to this, is that Khadi is certainly part of India's historic past, but it is the responsibility of all of us to see that Khadi and handlooms remains a part of our present and our future. It has huge potential and we should make the most of it. And government needs to be a catalyst in this process and not become a vendor. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no specific question, but any closing comments, Mr. Dhiraj Srivastava ji?
No, thank you very much. I will only be happy to, as Laila ji has just mentioned, to play the role of a catalyst.
Thank you, sir. We will be working with you closely for this.
Sure.
Thank you. Look forward to your support.
As a catalyst, we want you as an activist.
Sure.
Mayaram sir, any closing comments, or should I invite Wandana ji for concluding the session?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Now I would request Ms. Wandana Parnami, who is chairperson of FICCI Ladies Organization Jaipur chapter, and she is an entrepreneur and she has transformed and created White Peacock, which is now one of the leading manufacturer and exporter of marble sculptures and artifacts. Over to you, Wandana ji, for the concluding remarks.
Namaskar. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all the distinguished speakers and delegates. It was really an enriching experience to be a part of such a wonderful panel of speakers. The deliberations generated a lot of confidence that our crafts would not only survive but flourish in times to come. There is an increased sensitivity towards environment today, due to which sustainable fabrics are in demand. And the importance of sustainability would play a crucial role in the resurrection of handloom and khadi. Hand-woven khadi has caught worldwide attention and appreciation because it is durable, climate-friendly, zero-carbon, biodegradable, water-conserving, long-lasting, and organic in nature. And khadi is also a symbol of women empowerment, as most of the weavers are women. It is important to bring it to notice that to bring khadi to mainstream, which will help weavers, especially women, to continue what they do best, as well as to create more jobs. We at FICCI Flow have also taken several initiatives in this regard, right from creating an online platform for the artisans of the country, which will enable them to exhibit their art to the world and simultaneously providing them an opportunity to adapt themselves in these different times. Flow Creative Dignity was inaugurated by Srimati Vasundhara Raje, which aims to support and promote artisans. Flow Jaipur chapter members celebrated 6th National Handloom Weavers and by posting pictures on social media, by wearing handloom saris and products, sending messages across the society to promote and embrace the Indian handloom weaves to help towards creating Atmanirbhar Bharat. In the end, I would also like to appreciate the efforts taken by Pearl Academy and Ms. Alka Madhan for this endeavor. Thank you and have a nice day. Namaskar.
Thank you. With this, we come to close of the program. Thank you, Mayaram sir. Thank you, Dhiraj ji. Thank you, all the speakers. Sir, we will look forward to your continued support and guidance.